Hello, welcome back for our Unit 2 discussion board here in our American History 1 course. What I want to talk to you about this week on the discussion board and what I want you guys to interact with is this idea of what do you think was the greater appeal of the American colonies for migrants, freedom of religion or economic opportunity? How did these economic or cultural, social factors shape the early colonies? This is the question I want you to consider this week, and there's not a right answer here. That's what makes it a great discussion board question. The idea that if you look at different geographies or different individuals, you can see all sorts of different motivations for people coming to the United States. Our skill this week is evaluating evidence. We're looking at those political, economic, social, and cultural factors. And on the discussion board, I really want you to think about freedom of religion, which would be a social and cultural factor, as well as economic opportunity, which clearly economic factors. And sometimes students will get caught into on the discussion board here talking only about one specific colony or one small group of people. You'll see people go out and go, well, the correct answer, so in New England, people were coming for religious regions. They're forming these religious communities to exercise religious freedom, to get away from the Church of England or the Catholic Church, depending on where they were coming from. Or even trying to get away from Protestants in places like the Netherlands. But this idea that people came for a variety of different reasons. Historians have argued all sorts of different things. So what do some of those arguments look like? We have a couple of economic ones that immediately come to mind. One is from mid-90s book by the historian Daniel Vickers, Farmers and Fishermen, right? You may have seen this in the movie Good Will Hunting, if you've ever seen it, when they're in the famous bar scene in Cambridge. Matt Damon comes up and he says to the guy with the ponytail, he says, you stole that from Vickers, working at the Essex County, page 91. And this is a book by Daniel Vickers, and it's interesting that Damon was linking into that at the time. This book talks about people coming to New England for what they called competency. And we all know what it means to be competent, right? The idea that you're going to be sufficient at whatever task you do, but this is a different type of competency. This is about intergenerational economic stability. So what Vickers is going to argue is many people came to the United States for the opportunity, which is an economic opportunity, and particularly in New England, to create a family farm they could then hand down to the next generation. And by doing so, they would create a competency where they could provide for the needs of their family. So that's an economic driver that brought some people to New England. It had its own source of problems. You need a lot of labor, so one of the solutions to that was have a lot of children, and then you could run your family farm, which then in the next generation created problems where all of a sudden people would have too many children and you wouldn't be able to hand the farm down to all of them, and some would have to go find other things to do. But Vickers highlights some good economic reasons. Competency also plays in, if we look at the historian Richard S. Dunn's book, A Tale of Two Plantations. He talks about the Talo plantation of Virginia called Mount Airy, as well as the Mesopotamia plantation in the Caribbean, and he compares these two types of slavery in a very, very kind of quantitative, analytical way that's really interesting, and he constructs family histories, and there's all sorts of data that goes into this. But also competency is at the heart of this, the idea that large southern plantations were also founded for these economic reasons that maybe you want to consider in your post. People did come for religious reasons, and you're welcome to highlight those as well. There's a lot of distinct communities. If you think about William Penn and the Quaker community that develops there, you can look at any of the puritanical societies that develop in New England, early Baptist thought, if that's your particular brand. So again, this is your opportunity to maybe bring in some of your own unique perspective, some of those life experiences. If you're a Baptist or a Methodist or an Episcopalian or a Catholic, whoever you might be in your religious life, if that's something that you have, maybe investigate that and look at why early people came that way for kind of what reasons drove them here and what are some of the actual roots of that beyond what I would call your typical Sunday school answers of people just wanted religious freedom. Again, I encourage you to be creative, do some background research, start looking at some different sources as we're evaluating evidence. And then come back and have a meaningful conversation that helps you both explain your learning, showcase that to me, as well as helps you maybe glean some other useful information from other people in the course. Okay, good luck this week on the discussion board. I'll see you right back here next week.